how to start investing in multifamily real estate? That's a great question because there are a few steps that I'm going to share with you, but it's a great question and I can't wait. Let's go. In this video, I'm going to share with you the best way to start investing in multifamily real estate. And I'm going to give you some great tips on how to do it with almost no money. Like, okay, I'm not talking thousands of dollars. I'm not even talking $1,000. I'm really going to give you some great ways to get started in multifamily, not just one door, okay? Because many people want, like, what is multifamily? We're not just talking about one house or two houses. We're talking about a property that has multiple doors. I'm going to show you how to do that again, with not even thousands, with just hundreds of dollars. Number two, I'm going to tell you where to find multifamily deals because that is so important. So where they're located, where you should be looking, and where the best places for multifamily are. And then lastly, I'm going to tell you how to avoid money pits, how to avoid those big old properties that, you know, some unsuspecting and, you know, newbie investor is they're trying to pawn off on you. I'm going to tell you how to avoid those money pits and how to not get taken advantage of when we're in the multifamily realm. Okay, so let's get into it. So let's first talk about what multifamily is, because before I can even tell you all of that other stuff, I gotta kind of break this down a little bit because there's two definitions. A multifamily house is just a house with more than one unit. So we could be talking about 2 to 4 unit, a duplex, a triplex, a quadruplex, okay? So a 4 unit. Those are still considered single family residences, okay? So 1 to 4 units, even a duplex is a multifamily, you know, the 2 to 4 is a multifamily, but it's also considered residential, you know, real estate. So for the purpose of financing, I need you guys to understand that 1 to 4 units is one thing, and then 5 units and up is another category of multifamily. So there's 2 categories in multifamily, and I'm going to teach you on both of them, but I had to kind of give you that. So 2 to 4 units and then 5+ units. There's the basics there. Okay, so now that we have the definition and we know that there's a difference between, you know, 2 to 4 units versus 5+ units. Like I said, 2 to 4 units is going to have one set of financing. That's usually just residential real estate. You can use regular mortgage brokers. They're probably going to be able to lend on those a lot easier than going to a commercial bank, which is what you'll have to use if you get 5 or more units. So just giving you the difference there and letting you know there's 2 different types of financing. Both are actually okay to obtain. I'll walk you through that, but there is a difference there. So now let's talk about where to find multi-units. So we're just talking about any multi-unit. And most of your multi-units are not going to be in the suburbs. They're not going to be on the outskirts of cities and things like that. Most of your multifamilies are going to be near the city or near the city's core or right outside of the city, okay? And the reason that this is the area that you want to look at multifamilies for is because a lot of times people are not still building a lot of duplexes and triplexes. The coding has changed, the zoning has changed. So a lot of times there's not like a lot of newer properties available for you to buy, and properties that are closer to the city, closer to the urban core, more people live there, higher populations. So there's a lot more multifamilies. So you really want to stay away from the suburbs and start looking at your city, around the urban areas, and being in those areas to look for properties. The next thing and the next reason why that's important is because those areas too also usually have land that is very valuable. When you're near the city, not in the suburbs, the land where the multi-unit is usually very valuable. And so that's why they put multiple units on that land, because that land was very valuable. So that's another reason why we usually want multi-units closer to the city and not way out in the suburbs. The next place that you want to look and start searching for properties and finding ideal places for multifamilies are going to be around schools, like major universities and things like that, major hospitals, and major attractions, okay? Most people that are looking for apartment living or multifamily units or to rent properties are usually looking for things what? Close to work, close to public transportation, close to events and things like that. So again, this is why we're going to be staying away from the suburbs totally when we're talking about multifamily. We really want to be closer to where the main things are in your city or in your locality, because those are going to command the highest amount of rent, and they're going to be very valuable, and you're going to make a lot of money. Okay, so additionally, like I said, out in the suburbs, there's not many duplexes and triplexes and stuff like that. So it's not really lots to find out in the suburbs. So that's the same place that you want to avoid, is don't go out into the suburbs. Wherever there are multifamilies at, that's probably the area near schools and hospitals and things like that. But if you find these properties and they're not really near anything, it's probably not a good investment. The next thing when we're talking about investing in multifamily is, like I said, we have the 2 to 4 units, and then we have the 5+ units. And in any case, you need to decide which one are you going to go for. Now, I'm going to tell you a quick story. So when I first got started in real estate investing, I started, like I told you, I was working. I was a full-time mom. I got 5 kids. I worked, and I did real estate on the side. And I was wholesaling when I first got started. Then I graduated to the fixing and flipping. And again, I was just doing single houses. And then I got into the multifamily. And what I'm going to tell you is you do not have to start with one house, okay? You do not have to start with single family residences. You really can start with duplexes and triplexes and quadruplexes, 4 units, because that way you can make more profit, okay? The more doors you have, the more profitable. So multifamily is definitely something that you want to be looking into as a real estate investor, and you really want to start to think about, is this what I'm going to do in this thing? Because it is very profitable. But you probably don't want to go with those 5+ units if you haven't done this before, okay? The financing is different, the lending is different, how they look at the property is different. But I'm gonna be really honest with you. In many cases, with those 5+ units, the commercial real estate, they have some pretty awesome things available. So just start, okay? Just start with those 2 to 4 units, and then quickly decide that I'm probably going to go to 5 units and more, okay? So I'm not telling you that you have to start with houses. You totally don't have to start with houses. You definitely can start with multifamily. But I guess this piece of advice is go with those 2 to 4 units first to get your feet wet if you have never had a property or if you've never done anything like this before you go to that 5+ unit. Well, okay, that wraps up this video. Hopefully you enjoyed all this content. Hopefully you are interested in multifamily. I hope that you are, because I love it. In fact, we're buying apartments now like crazy, and so are my students, and we have this great network. There's a link below to the opportunity to show you how you can get involved, how you can start making money probably within 90 days doing this. Most people are getting a check within 90 days. In fact, that's how it's set up. So check the link below. We have some great opportunity in multifamily with this company that I have. Again, it's endorsed by the original shark from the hit TV show Shark Tank. So this is amazing, and you are on the right track by even watching this video and being interested in multifamily. I'll talk to you next time.